In this video, I'm going to answer the question of what is Metasys and how is it different from Tridium? What can you do with these tools? So that's what we're going to do in this video. And basically, we're going to jump over to one of our buildings and begin the conversation there. And what we have here is one of our buildings, and you are seeing in front of you Metasys. For those of you guys that might not be familiar with what building automation is, basically this is a way to control the various systems that function within a building. What you have in front of you now is the dashboard that we have for one of our buildings. Again, this is something that is built in Metasys, all of the graphics and things like that. And this is a tool to be able to see multiple different systems in one place. That's one of the biggest strengths of having a building automation system, whether it is Metasys, whether it is Tridium or Facilities Explorer. And we're going to kind of get into some of that for you guys who might not be sure of this as far as what it is. And there are a lot of similarities and a lot of differences between the various systems, and they are all competing against one another. For what you see here, we have air handlers, we have exhaust fans, chill water system, hot water system, domestic hot water, and all that. And we can actually go in and look at the individual equipment from this screen, simply clicking into it. And a lot of this is going to go back to how you have it set up, and we can see all of the data, all of the values for this particular unit right here in front of us. We have control points. We can actually control our system from this. We also have the ability to go in and look at individual rooms. We can see what the temperatures are in those individual rooms. Obviously, this one is unoccupied currently, but we can do that from right here at this screen. And again, I have a way where I can go in and do scheduling. I can add a schedule if unnecessary. I can see trending on my data values, as well as all of my other set points and things like that. They can be changed either from this section here or from the graphic that I showed you earlier. And I also do have a lot of tools here. I can actually use this for a lot of troubleshooting. If I'm trying to troubleshoot why I might have a temperature problem in the room, I can see what my airflow is. I can see what the heating is doing, as well as what that discharge temperature is into the room. So it is a very powerful tool that you can use for your system. It's going to make your life much easier. And again, from the way that we have this laid out here, I currently have our schedules here. I can see the entire floor schedules for this particular building, all of these rooms here, all of these schedules here. And I can add or, whatever I need to do. I can change schedules. I could literally, if I wanted to, I could add an exception schedule to every single one of these at one time, or I could do them individually, just depending on what I needed to do within my system. But again, this is just one of the many elements that a building automation system can be used for. And again, it is basically pulling multiple systems together in one platform. Here I have my chill water system. I can see exactly what is going on with everything in the chill water system, whether or not I've got a chiller running, and whether it's doing properly, whether it's doing what it should. So that's kind of the key thing there. It is a tool. Metasys, Tridium, all of these things, whether even some of the other systems that are out there. Your two big players are going to be Honeywell, which is all flavors of Tridium, and Johnson Control, which of course is Metasys. And again, it's bringing together multiple systems into one platform. So don't let it be confused as far as whether or not, if it's a controller or something like that, because it's more than just that. You can have these systems actually work together much better than what most people think, or at least what most of your companies put out there. Obviously, these companies are in business to make money, so they're going to do what they can to try to get people to lean more towards their products. And even within some of these companies, there are some divisions. probably because, they're just trying to go after some of these different markets. For example, even Johnson Controls, even though their flagship would be Metasys, they also compete in the Tridium space with their Facilities Explorer. So let's just jump over to that just a minute. And I've got it pulled up here, and you can see here this is going to be Facilities Explorer. I've actually got a few things up here, and you can see that it does look a little bit different. As far as the layout, there are graphics and things like that for each of these, but this is just a couple of units compared to an overall system. I do have files and things like that I can click through here depending on what I am wanting to do. I can go in here and there's a lot. It's a very powerful tool, but it can be a little bit cumbersome. And that's one of the complaints that some people have about Tridium. That's also one of the complaints that some people have about Metasys. So what is going to be the resolution for that? And in general, the resolution for that is having people that set your system up, regardless of the platform that you use. It needs to be set up properly. If one system is set up properly and another system is not, the system that's set up properly is going to work better for you. So that is the key. That is one of the most, I guess you could say, unthought about factors when we're talking about these two different systems. Whether it's Facilities Explorer, whether it's one of these other manufacturers, because Tridium in general, what it is what they call an open platform, but none of these things are as open as they like to claim that they are. And they can all be made to do virtually the same thing. It's basically just how you get there. And if you are an operator, a building operator, if you are someone, a facilities manager or something like that, the key element is having people on your team or people that you work with, companies that you work with, that are going to set your system up to provide you with what you need, regardless of which platform you go with. And one of the big criticisms, I guess you could say, that I have is the fact that there are so many of these systems that can work together much better than either one of these companies will put out there. Each have advantages and disadvantages, as I have said before, and you have a lot of function in both of them. They have got to be configured properly. So let's jump back in, and I'm going to show you exactly why. You see this screen here. This is the air handler. We had the graphics up a minute ago. One of the things that I've done here, I actually have this Jace pulled into our Metasys system. That is something that I've talked about in other videos. I actually go through and show some of the steps of how you can actually pull a Tridium Jace into Metasys and see all of the points. You can actually manipulate the points or just whatever you need to do. So these systems do work well. And there is another element that you need to realize as well. And while we are here, I want to jump over to the network and kind of give you just a little bit about how these things are structured. What you are seeing is our network tree. And with the network tree being what it is, we have a network engine. We have, all of these devices here are network engines. And underneath each of these devices is going to be your controllers for the various devices within your building, whether it is like a VAV, whether it is an air handler, as you can see here. And again, this is just one example. This is just a rough, bare bones text. There again, this is the text of all of the various points that are in this air handler. And like what you've seen with the Tridium, all of these points here, it kind of looks raw. It's a little bit difficult to understand, and it's not very user-friendly in many cases. And this is my point. If you have someone that sets your system up properly, whether it is Tridium or whether it is Metasys, that is the key, is having the system set up properly to provide you with the information that you need when you need it. For example, here we have our data organized. We have things clearly marked within the system. and it is much more helpful when we have this. We also have the ability to put files and things like that. We have a collection here on this page here of all of the systems, or the primary systems, to where we can know that everything is running properly. We also have data and information in places where we need it. For example, if I needed to access my drawings, then I can do that straight within our system, and it is right here. And I'm going to take just a minute to show you a little bit about how your overall system is organized. You can kind of see here some of the network tree as far as how this is laid out. It is basically just a communication cable that goes between all of the various devices that go all the way back to the network engine for the building. Okay, the network engine, as I had mentioned earlier, when we jump back over here, each of these devices is a network engine. Within a Tridium system, it would be a Tridium Jace, and you can have multiple Jaces here or anything like that, just like what you see here. This is Metasys, and this is what we have. But we do have Tridium Jaces pulled into our system as well, and it just, like I showed you earlier, that one air handler, that is a Tridium Jace that is pulled into our system. But I can actually scroll down, and if you'll bear with me just for a minute, I will show you one. We do have right here, this device here is, an air acuity system. This is not a Tridium Jace, but it is another system that is pulled into our system, our overall system. And then I do have the Tridium Jace is right here for a lot of our other equipment. This is actually for one of our labs, or I should say a bunch of our labs, one of our lab buildings, I should say. And this being a Tridium Jace, it is pulled in within our system to where we can manipulate it, view data, track data, and everything else right here within Metasys. Now, not saying you cannot do the same thing within Tridium, because you certainly can. It is, my opinion, my personal opinion, there are features in both, as I mentioned earlier. Some have advantages in Tridium, some have advantages in Metasys. And since these companies are basically competing with each other, you're going to see continuous changes. You're going to see improvements and things like that. My personal opinion, Tridium can be a little bit more cumbersome depending on what you're trying to do than what it is in Metasys. But again, that goes back to having your system organized properly by people that set it up for you. Again, that is the key, having your system organized properly. It's a tool. And again, it is just simply a tool that is to help you in your overall process. And I'm sure there's a lot of questions that this video is not going to answer, but what I wanted to do with it is just to give you an overview of what Tridium is, what Metasys is, and it could take literal days to get into some of the specific differences. And, and I know that we don't have time for that, guys. But again, this is just some information that I wanted to get out there for you. Again, both are very powerful. Both can be very helpful in managing your building and managing all of the systems and pulling them together on one platform. And again, guys, hope you like the video. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave those down in the comments below. Check out all the affiliate links below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.